Hey guys, it's episode number 324, and I'm so excited about this one because it's my personal mentor. Today you get to meet Bo Eason, who is a former NFL player, a Broadway actor, and one of the best keynote speakers in the world today, as proclaimed by Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins and so many great speakers. Today you're going to hear the value of having and harnessing your own personal story, of how to present yourself on video when I know so many of you are live selling and you're wanting to connect with your customer through video. We're going to talk about physicality. And also, I think this is probably my favorite part, is the mindset of being the best. Earlier, probably, I guess, a year ago now, Bo and I have worked together for maybe 3 years, but about a year ago now, Bo asked me this question of, what is your enemy? And I said, my enemy is the mindset of being mediocre, because I feel like so many people in today's day and age feel like that's where the bar is set. We should just sit and coast and not try to be the best. And so Bo has truly inspired me, and I hope he inspires you today to dig deep and find out, what does it mean to be the best in your life? Maybe being the best isn't a dollar amount or a certain amount of recognition, but it's living the life and running the race that you want to live. Guys, today is such a powerful episode. And not only do you have the opportunity to hear Bo today on the podcast, but if you are attending the Boutique Summit in Atlanta in person, or if you have the opportunity to snag the live digital access to the Boutique Hub, to the Boutique Summit rather, I hope you take that opportunity, because Bo is going to be our closing keynote speaker during the event. And you're going to hear even more in depth what he can share on stage versus what he can share today. You're going to take a ton of notes. And when Eric and I first saw him, we couldn't pee, we couldn't eat, we couldn't drink, we couldn't blink when we watched Bo present on stage. And I hope you have that exact same experience. Guys, please welcome my friend, my mentor, the great Mr. Bo Eason. Let's talk about your business, strategy, and the juicy details of what actually works, from mainstream fashion to fashion on Main Street, and the entire ecosystem behind it. How do we scale your company and do it with the balance and the happiness that we all seek? Let's hear from those insiders, experts, and strategists that actually make it happen. I'm your host, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub, and I can't wait to chat. You guys, have I mentioned how excited I am about this week? You guys hear me every single week talking about education and opportunities to build your own business, but I have to tell you, I've invested a ton to grow myself and the Boutique Hub along the way. So today my guest could not be more special, because when I talk about investing in masterminds and mentorship and coaches, today you get to meet my coach and go behind the scenes in some of the things that I've been working on for the last year. And we're going to bring it to you today. So you guys, Bo Eason, welcome to the podcast today. I'm so excited to have you.
Yes, it's so great, Ashley, to be on here together. I know we've shared the screen a lot in the last year and a half or so together, but yes, this would be great to be on the podcast.
I'm so excited. The first time Eric and I saw you in person, and I know Eric is so excited to see you again here at the Boutique Summit, but you just mesmerized us. We were like, this guy, the energy, the motivation, the encouragement to run your race and to be the best, just really resonated with us. And so when I think about who you surround yourself with, I know when I'm on your team, I'm surrounded by the best. I'm surrounded by people that are running a race at a whole new level. But that comes because we have a great leader. So today I would love to kick this off by talking about, where did this come from within you? How did you decide this was going to be your journey? And what did it take to pull out being the best in your own life?
Yeah, well, the genesis of this best term is I've been obsessed with it my whole life, just the term the best. Yeah. And my kids, if you ask them, they'd say, no, Dad, the word is more haunted by this term. and because I'm always preaching to them to be the best, because that's how my dad talked to us. I'm the youngest of 6 kids, and I have 4 older sisters and 1 older brother. And that's how my dad woke us up. We grew up on a farm, on a ranch, and he woke up early, and that's how he woke us up, by telling us we were the best. And so that was a source of embarrassment for most of my, growing up years, because he would say it right in front of, I remember the first date I went on, it was a double date with my brother, and he would tell us we were the best while we're walking out the door. And me and my brother are so embarrassed, like, come on, Dad. and it seemed like we weren't the best, like not to us. We felt like just kids, trying to be athletes or elite athletes. And we didn't know if it was going to work out or not, but he told us that we were the best. And eventually we just kind of surrendered to what he saw. And we actually became the best at a high level. So my brother was a first round pick as a quarterback for the New England Patriots. And I was a top pick for the Houston Oilers back in the 80s. And so we got to play in the NFL for years. But, when I think of the best, when you ask me that question, I think of at the end of my career, Ashley, I got traded to the San Francisco 49ers, right? So at that time, the San Francisco 49ers had a guy on their team named Jerry Rice. Now, some of you may remember him. Some of you may not have ever heard of Jerry Rice, but here's the deal with Jerry Rice. So the NFL has been around for 101 years. So he is probably the greatest player in 101 years. Maybe Tom Brady passed him maybe last year, right? But that's, that was very freakish how he could pass him because Jerry Rice has scored so many more touchdowns than anyone else in the history of the NFL that nobody can catch up to him. And the reason that he scored all of those, because for one, I've seen it from both ends. So I used to play against him, which is a nightmare. But eventually I got to play with him. And so I got to see, what he's made of. And Jerry Rice is not the biggest dude in the world. He is not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the most elite athlete in the world, but he's the greatest in 100 years because of his generosity. And when I say generosity, I mean the generosity of the spirit that he gave to the game and that you and me get to give, to our chosen fields, right? Or our marriages or our parenting. We actually have our fingers on the dial of our own generosity of spirit. Like, how much are we going to give of ourselves? And I am telling you, I have never seen anybody in my whole life, and I've been around, obviously a lot of elite players and performers, and I've never seen anybody give as much of themselves as he did. So when I was a little kid and I had these dreams of playing pro football, I just wrote up this little contract with myself, right? I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to be the best safety in the world. And to do that, here's part of the contract. I have to be the first person on the field every time I practice for the rest of my life. And I have to be the last person to leave that field. So as the years went by, I did that when I was 9, but as the years went by, 20 years goes by and nobody has ever beat me out on the field early or left the field after me. So I had held that contract, which I had never told anybody about, for 20 straight years. And then something weird happened. I get traded to the team that happens to have the greatest player in 100 years on the team, right? And so you would think that he wouldn't have to be out there before me, or he wouldn't have to stay out there after me, because he's the greatest that this game has ever seen. Mm-hmm. But I was wrong. I walked out to my first day of practice, of training camp with the San Francisco 49ers, and the fields are empty, just like they've been for 20 years every time I go to practice, whether it was in grammar school or high school or college or in the pros. I was the first. And I look out at these green fields, first day of practice with the 49ers. I look around, I go, 20 years, man, still the first. Yeah. And then I look right over there. And guess who's standing right over there? The greatest player in the history of the game, Jerry Rice. And I was like, right? I was like, how could this be? How could it be that the lesser players aren't out there and he is? Well, he and I start to warm up, right? And as we start to warm up, the other players begin to show up. Joe Montana, Randy Cross, Roger Craig, Ronnie Lott. This is a Super Bowl winning team, right? So it had great players on it. We get out there and, back in the 80s when I played in the NFL at training camp, especially the first day of training camp, everybody's kind of chill, right? Everybody's like, hey, man, let's just take it easy, right? Let's not get injured. Let's just, go through the motions a little bit. So that's what people are doing. The receivers are like running their routes and they're all chill and they're all cool and they're all going what we call an all-pro glide. That means you made the all-pro team, meaning you can kind of, you can kind of glide. And so we call it the all-pro glide. So these guys are all pro glide and they're catching the ball, right? And then they're turning around and they're walking the ball back to the quarterback, Joe Montana, and they're giving him the ball. And they do this receiver after receiver, all cool, all chill. And then guess who stands up? The greatest player in the history of the game. And I say, okay, I want to see what this dude does. And sure enough, he did the opposite of everybody else. Full speed, bam, off the line of scrimmage, full speed. Breaks off a slant, catches the ball, whoom, full speed, 100 yards, puts his body into the end zone. I mean, you guys, full speed. No one's going full speed. Puts his body in the end zone, turns around, runs back. And I was like, what? Where the hell's this guy even going? And as I watched him, he did it over and over and over and over. I never seen anything like it. 20 years. I never seen anything like it, let alone from the greatest player in the history of the game. And so I go up to him at the end of practice because I played 20 years of football. I never seen anybody do this. And I said, hey, man, I said, Jerry, listen, dude, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? What is all that? What's all the running every time, putting yourself in the end zone every time? He must have run 10 miles of sprints the whole practice. He said, Bo, the answer is really simple. Every time that these hands touch the ball, this body ends up in an end zone somewhere. And I'm not kidding you, Ashley, the moment he said that, I said to and I was like 27 at the time. I said to myself, oh, I thought I was generous. I thought I gave all of my spirit all of the time, which got me this far. This guy's actually never backs off. So he has trained his body that every time these touch leather, this scores a touchdown. So of course he's got 60 more touchdowns than the guy in second place. So I'm telling you, that changed the way I got married. That changed the way I parent. That changed the way I speak on stage. And it changes the way I'm talking to you today. Because just like all of you, when you're getting ready to do your work and your presentations and you're selling, you kind of you have this human element of going like this. You know what? I think today maybe I'll just back off a little bit and not risk it all, and kind of save some face and not embarrass me, not embarrass myself, and embarrass the whole family by trying too hard or giving too much of myself.
Yeah.
And every time I do that, Ashley, which is every day, I'm faced with that question. I think of Jerry Rice. And I say, what would he do? And sure enough, he would give his all. Because just a few years ago, my wife, Dawn, who Ashley knows well, runs into our bedroom and says, sweetheart, you're not going to believe this. Your teammate, Jerry Rice, is on Dancing with the Stars. And I was like, what do you guys think I said? As soon as she said that, what do you think I said? I said, right, he's going to win. And sure as heck, he won. Because he's not trust me, we got some good dancers in the locker room. He is not one of them, right? Mm-hmm. He's not a good dancer. He out generositied everybody, right? Yeah. He gave more of himself than all those other celebrities attempting to win this trophy. He won it. And so when I'm speaking to a group like this, Ashley, and, we're going to continue this in Atlanta, when you're around somebody who gives all of themselves all of the time, that changes your life. And now your parenting, your coaching, your presentations, your marriage, you never half-assed anything. You try to because you don't want to risk it all. But now my body, just having experienced him, it won't allow me, to back off. It just won't. And same is true for all of us. So I think that's a good place to kind of kick off and say, look, we've all got our fingers on this dial called generosity. Let's crank the volume and let's give all of our audience, all of ourselves, and then let them decide whether they want to be with us or not with us. Because I guarantee you, if you're on Jerry Rice's team, you win Super Bowls. If you're on Tom Brady's team, you get to win Super Bowls because these guys give all of themselves all of the time. And same is true for you. Yeah.
I love that. Bo, I don't know if you know this, but our motto inside of the Boutique Hub is community over competition. And I just truly believe that a rising tide lifts all ships. And so when you're surrounded by that mentality of wanting to be the best, I mean, that's going to rub off on everybody. And I know something that you and I have in common. One time you asked, what is your enemy? Because everyone's fighting an enemy. And I said, my enemy is mediocrity, being mediocre. And I believe we share the same. And I think that's for me, the biggest takeaway is not only am I going to be the best, but I'm going to fight against those who want to be mediocre because society today just tells us that we should. We should just coast and go on to the next stage of our life.
No doubt. I Ashley, you're so right about that. If we were put on this earth to be mediocre, I would change my training. I would change my enemy. I would change your enemy. I would. Yeah. But Mother Nature and God just did not set it up that way. No one won that race on the day of their conception by being mediocre. Nobody. There were no medals handed out for second place on that day. Yeah. And so if that is our true nature, which is embedded in our DNA, it's actually harder for us human beings, the ones that did win that race, which is you and me and everybody listening to us today. If that's true, which it is, it's actually harder for us to be mediocre than it is for us to be the gold medalist. Yeah. So why don't we just follow our birthright to the gold medal rather than trying to fit into some cubicle called mediocrity, which we can't fit into if we tried. Yes.
Oh, preach. I'm just going to drop the mic after that. So this leads me into if our listeners are not yet familiar with you and your story and how did you go from NFL and being the best to now you're teaching people how to be on stage and on camera and use their story. I think this next part of your story is just as interesting because what do most players do after the NFL? Who knows?
Yeah. I agree. A lot of them go into commentary on the game. They go into coaching of the game. I just felt like I needed a different kind of outlet away from football because, once I reached the top there, I loved the game because I could express myself fully. That's what I loved about it. Yeah. I got to be dangerous. I got to hurt people. And growing up as a boy, you kind of have that inside you. You're kind of like, man, I want to run my head into that person. I know that sounds crazy in this day and age, right? But that's kind of a thing. It's kind of a natural thing.
Yeah.
And to eventually find out that I could do that and I could actually be rewarded for that, like get paid for it, Yeah. But after I got done playing, I figured, I had 7 knee surgeries while I played and a lot of concussions, as you might guess, the way I talk and stuff.
I'll ask Dawn about that. I
don't know. And so I just figured I gotta find out. I gotta find a place.
Yeah.
A place for me to make a living for the rest of my life, because I was only at 27, 28 when I was done. Yeah. And I had to find a place where I could express myself. And because I figured if I couldn't express myself, I'd be in big trouble, because my expression up to that point was running 25 miles an hour into other people, which that does not translate well to the civilian world, right? So I moved to New York, but because I remember seeing plays and Broadway and off Broadway, and the theater was in New York. And I said, if I can learn to express myself the way I did on a field, if I can do that on a stage, like with my voice and with my body and my physicality, then I'll be able to make a living, and then I'll be safe and the rest of society will be safe also. So I said, that's a good career choice for me. So I moved there. I do the same things, basically. I study my butt off. I surround myself with the best teachers and the best mentors. And I didn't plan on being famous. I planned on being the best stage performer in the world. That was my dream. Mm-hmm. As it happened, Al Pacino, who was, this was in the early 90s, he was like the biggest movie star in the world at that time. But he became a mentor of mine and really helped me during this 3-hour meeting that we had, which goes back to the Jerry Rice thing. Like he was at the top of the heap, right? And I said, listen, dude, I want what you've got. I'm like 20 years from that, 20 years of training away from that. You got to tell me what to do, man. What do I do? Because if I went to the second best actor, or if I went to the second most generous receiver in the NFL, they probably couldn't tell me how to get what they had. Yeah. But when you put yourself with the best who are living out their dreams in real time, they'll actually tell you what you should do. And basically what they do and what they tell you to do is the same thing that I would give to you, which is not only would I tell you to attempt to be the best in the world in your field and don't go for the silver medal, I'm also exemplifying that, right? So Jerry Rice and Al Pacino had a lot in common. They were the best, and they didn't just preach it, they lived it. It was who they were. It was in every molecule in their body. You could see it. They were an example of what they were attempting, which was greatness. Now, these guys failed more than everybody else too, right? Because they were attempting greatness. More failure kind of goes that way, right? So for all of you, same mindset. That's what I had when I went to, New York. I said, I want to be the best stage performer of my time. Well, that took many years. It took a lot of training. And, I got, what some people would say, I got there or got close to there, right? With a one-man show that opened on Broadway that I wrote and that I was the only guy in. And, it got bought as a movie and it became this hit and it ran for 17 years. Now, listen, I was behind every stage performer in the world because I was a football player and I came to the game late. But I outworked them and I had the right mindset of being the best and I passed them. And some people I could say to you right now, who you know their names, would come backstage, right? When I was performing, guys like Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire and those kind of like Philip Seymour Hoffman, like these kinds of people. Who win Academy Awards, and they go, shit, I never seen anything. Oh, did I cuss? Is that it? Sorry about that.
You roll with it, man.
Sometimes I imagine myself still in the locker room. Sorry, people. Um, um, and they would actually say, I never seen anything like that. And it was it wasn't that I had a talent. It was that I showed up and I came to play and I gave them everything I got. And that, as you all know, that is the one thing in our lifetime that we can always depend on. Courage is the only thing that is rewarded in our lifetime. So think about courage in the way of Jerry Rice and Al Pacino. How do you give all of yourself? How do you risk all of yourself and put yourself out there? How do you do it? Yeah. That's what's rewarded. That's what people connect to. That's why, this next level, this storytelling is so unifies us where nothing else can quite do that. This intimacy and trust that you get from it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what you teach today that I've been a part of is teaching people how to tell their own story. And I was telling you before we jumped on the podcast, I feel like it's so central to what I teach in the Boutique Hub and to our boutique owners. I mean, it's kind of like Gary Vee in the book, Jab, 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 Right Hook. If just like dropped right hooks all day long and just sold, no one would listen. Nobody would care, right? But it's the jabs, it's the storytelling, it's the community, it's the authenticity that connects people, and then they're ready to buy because people do business with people, not with companies. And so that's why I think like your storytelling is so important to boutique owners today that are listening because they all have a story. They all have a reason why people want to shop with them. You can buy this shirt 57 different places right now with a stroke of Google, but I don't want to. I want to buy it with the person I want to buy it from. So can you help our listeners understand how to harness their own story, how to find what is their story and how to start to use it every day in business to build a connection with people?
Yeah, this is so key, especially now. And I know that you guys have huge success, right? Especially like lately when a lot of people didn't. And you guys really pivoted, made the move, did great. You have to be sharing yourself to have that kind of success. You have to build trust. So you already are on this path here, but let's go an inch better, just like Jerry Rice would do, just like Al Pacino would do. So the people who aren't sharing themselves, who are on this podcast today, I want you to surrender to the fact that you must going forward, because the trust level in the country gets measured every year by Gallup, right? And it's never been lower. As you can all imagine, it's never been lower. Do you remember when you used to trust like news anchors? Do you remember when you used to trust people who had a white coat on? Well, do you anymore? I mean, are you like, wait, what? Do you remember how somebody would stand at a podium and you would trust what they said? Well, yes. It has never been lower. Now, some people are depressed by that news. Ashley, not me and not you, because we have the golden goose, which is the ability to share ourselves. If you notice, I'm doing this the whole time I'm on this podcast with you. All I'm doing is revealing stuff about my own life and sharing it with you. And it's not all perfect. And I don't have a mastery of the English language by any stretch. I'm just a guy who has big dreams, just like all of you, and is attempting them and fails and then gets up and, wipes the blood off his nose and gets back up again, just like you. That connects you to other human beings. Your personal story is the key to the kingdom as far as trust, leadership, and maybe most importantly of the three things is intimacy. This intimacy that is a lost art in our world. Everybody's so afraid to reveal. Everybody's so afraid to be exposed that if you can actually have this intimacy like we're having on camera today by sharing your story, and the second part of it would be to physicalize your story. Mm-hmm. So if you guys notice, if trust is the thing that we're after, right? Because no one has trust. And the people that do have it, which is us, the ones who surrender to the fact that we're going to tell our story and we're going to physicalize that story, we're going to get all the audience. We're going to get all the trust and the intimacy, because this is where the physicality piece comes in. So physicality, people believe about 50% of what comes out of your mouth. So think about that. It's crazy, right? So as I'm speaking here today, you believe 50%, you maybe don't believe the other 50% of what comes out of my mouth, but you believe my body and trust my body 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Isn't that wild? The body can't lie. Now, if I'm on stage in front of you, you get to look at my foot if you want to. You get to look at my little pinky if you want to. You have free reign, which is why only the great, great, great performers go on stage. Since we're, virtual right now, and you guys, some of you can see me, some of you are just listening. Ashley and I take up the space that we're giving, and we physicalize that space. So even though we're in these little boxes right now, that box is filled with our expression, our physicality, and we're not going to apologize for it.
Yes.
That physicality. Most people apologize for their physicality, and they do it by just body language. They'll cross their arms, or they'll put their hands in front of their sex. Like they'll just cross their hands. Like, I'll stand up so you guys can kind of, camera doesn't go high enough, but you guys know where the sex is. So that's easy. So they just cover, right? Or they cover themselves, or they apologize with their body, right? We don't have to do that. We don't do that. We let this body express itself. That's what people trust the most. If there's one thing I can tell you is, any people that I've worked with, any group, and it doesn't matter what the particular business is. It could be, financial advising. It could be coaches. It could be politicians. The people who are in the business of selling things, of making offers, the thing that people are buying is this body, is this unapologetic human instrument that is the greatest, most expressive instrument ever created. And they trust this thing, and that it in a second, don't you?
Yeah.
Like, in a second whether you trust somebody. You look at them, I don't care if it's on camera, on stage, or walking down the streets of New York City. You go, nope, nope, nope. And that's how this goes. So I'll pause right there, Ashley, so you can jump in and see where you want me to go with this.
Well, first of all, because I've been studying these things with you, I just feel that it is so important for anyone who is listening, and those of you who have the opportunity to hear Bo speak at the Boutique Summit. This is why I'm so excited that you're coming, is because everyone needs this that is a boutique owner. Like, you need this. If you go on camera to do a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, and you show up and, you're kind of like playing with your hair and you're crossing your arms and you got the ums and the ahs when there's that dead time when Facebook first starts and there's no viewers yet. Oh, hi, Cindy. Welcome to the show. People can snuff that out in just such a second. And that's what you're illustrating. And so I just want people to take home those tips of, when someone walks into the room and owns the room, they're unapologetic with, just look at me, take me as I am. Their arms are not crossed. They're there. They're filling the space. And every boutique owner has the opportunity to do that. So I'm curious, beyond physicality, for those that are listening that do go live, what other tips do you have to help them either warm up to get on camera or to, again, just tell their story and fill the space every time they're live?
Yeah. So being that the, Olympics are starting, right, or on now, think about the Olympic athletes, all those athletes who, I always think of the gymnasts, for the female gymnasts.
Yeah.
I always watch them. Because of their body, their body language and what it's expressing, and they're so young. Do you think any of those gymnasts, after studying and training their whole life and sacrificing school and proms and boyfriends, they sacrificed everything to be on that stage? Do you think that they would ever wing it once they got to the Olympics and go, you know what? I think today I'm just going to wing it up there on the uneven parallels. I think I'm just going to skip the warm up and don't worry about activating my body and just, get on that old balance beam that's only 4 inches wide. They don't do that because they're pros. You and me, we don't do that. I don't get on this camera for this podcast today. I don't show up here and go, oh, I'm doing a podcast with Ashley today. I guess I'll just wing it. No. My body is activated like an elite athlete, like an elite performer, the way I was trained to perform. There's no difference in what performance you're giving. If you're Mikhail Baryshnikov, you're the greatest ballet dancer in the world, or you're the greatest gymnast in the world, or you're the fastest woman in the world. You have to activate that body for it to perform how you need it to perform. Well, same is true for you and me. Yeah. You've got to get this thing warmed up, activated, the voice, the body expressed. I like to warm up right up into the point where I'm starting to get a little sweaty, like I'm going, dang. And some of you might be going, well, I don't want to sweat on camera, or I don't want to be all shiny. You know what I mean? Your audience really appreciates it. Trust me. Go right up into that point and where you're activated. Then you can throw on powder or whatever and go, right? But your body isn't shut down. It is opened up. If you'll just do that, you watch, just like everyone else I work with who's in the business of selling things, especially on camera, they trust your body when it is open. You don't even trust your body when it is shut down, right? When you and me wake up in the morning, we're like, we're walking around half dead. You don't even trust your body. No one else is going to trust it. So it's got to be activated for us to go, oh, I like this person. This person's willing to give me all they got. I like that kind of person. I want to buy from that kind of person because I trust them. Now, if you watch the news, just turn on the news right now for 5 seconds, or turn on a politician for 2 seconds, or anything like that. What's the first thing you're going to do? Within 2 seconds, you're going to go like this. Oh, I don't trust them. And you don't even know why you don't trust them. You don't trust them because they're not activated. They don't care what they're saying. They just, blah, 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 there's nothing personal there. There's nothing revealing there. Nothing is at risk. There's no courage, which is why the trust level is so low, but not for you and me. Not for you and me.
Yep. Completely agree. Well, Bo, this has been 30 minutes that has flown by, and I hope a ton of value for everyone who's listening. But part of the reason I really wanted you to come to Summit and I want you to be here today is I'm really excited about other people having an opportunity just to learn from you as well. So can you just take a second and share, if someone wants to learn more about you or attend one of your events, where they can find that information? And of course, we'll link this all up in the show notes as well.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will. You know what? I'm going to give you a text number.
Perfect.
I'm going to give you a text number. So text story guide to 44222. Story guide to 44222. I'm going to send you, because, we have had limited time today. I'm going to send you, a story guide that will help you, take you by the hand and walk you through your story and how to uncover that baby, because that thing's going to end up being the most valuable thing that you've got. Right. Yeah. So, story guide to 44222, and we'll have that out to you.
I love that. And for those that are coming to see you in Atlanta next week, do you want to give us a sneak peek of what everyone's going to be able to learn from you next week?
For one, we're going to be in person. So it's going to be, I've been doing in-person stuff lately, as things have, opened up. Man, it's my favorite thing to do, and I think it's like in our DNA, we're just pack animals, right? Us human beings. We're like a pack of wolves, or like dogs, or, we just are lions. We're like a pride. And once we get together, like magic happens. So for all of you coming, and even if you're watching it at home, right? Here's what I'd love for you to look at. Watch the physicality. Yeah. Watch how the words really don't matter as much as the human body expressing itself. And watch yourself as you're watching the presentation, and watch yourself. Do I trust that? Am I leaning in because of that movement and that physicality and that pack animal mentality that we have? So watch that, because that can be done on camera and it can certainly be done live. But that is the human element that I'd love for you to watch for. And also, one more thing, Ashley, is look, I just think that we're being promoted to, most of us, to be mediocre.
Yeah.
And expect nothing more than mediocrity or middle class or whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. And I'm against that. And I know, Ashley, you're against that. And so, Ashley and I are in a position where now we're on the attack against mediocrity, right? So we're in not only attack of people who believe that they're mediocre, but the people who promote mediocrity.
Participation trophies.
Right? Yeah, it's just not how I would join the mediocre crew if I was in the middle of the pack on the day of my conception, and so were you, and we got like 155th place on that day, and I would change my training. I would. I promise you, I would change everything that I'm about. But Mother Nature, God, said that wasn't the case. They said, you're number one. You won the race. Now it is once you're born, it is your birthright to fulfill on that race that you won. And that's what I'm out to do. I know, Ashley, you're out to do it. And that's what we're going to bring to Atlanta live, and can't wait to see you.
I can't wait for it. Bo, last question, and then I will let you go, because I have to ask this question. It's why we're here. I've met your 3 beautiful children, and I know this destiny that you're on. And I'm curious, as you think years down the road, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, and you're sitting on the front porch with Dawn with grandkids, and you're talking about the life that you lived and the stories that you told and the person that you were. What is the thing that you want them to remember the most about you and how you lived your life?
Wow. That's great. It's tough. Whew. That's really good. I think I would love for them the memories that I have of my dad, who died probably 12 years ago. The one thing I always know about my dad, like, he wasn't the perfect dude, right? He was a cowboy. He was salt of the earth. He was straightforward. Every other word was foul language. But he saw greatness in us, my family and my siblings and me, that we could not see for ourselves.
Yeah.
And not only for just his kids, his 6 kids, but for all of our friends, everybody he ran into, he saw their greatness. And not only did he see it, but he spoke to it. He spoke as if they saw it too. And he would be patient enough for you, and this might take years, and in my case, it did take years. He spoke my greatness to me every day when I didn't feel great, when I really thought I was mediocre, until I just surrendered to what he saw.
Yeah.
And I hope, that my kids, I got a feeling they are. I got a feeling they're going to surrender to that one day, even though they might be fighting me now as teenagers. Their greatness. I hope that's the memory that they have.
I love that. Bo Eason, thank you so much for the person and the spirit that you are, for being my mentor, my friend, and for the opportunity to share with the community today. I'm so grateful for you. Thanks for your time on the podcast.
Thanks, Ashley.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope that you loved it. Don't forget to hit subscribe and leave a rating and review down below for a chance to be one of our featured listeners each and every week. For more information on our spirit of community over competition and how to access complete show notes and bonus downloads from our guests, head on over to theboutiquehub.com and join the community. We'll see you next week.